Let's go live to Ukraine, shall we? If you watched the programme yesterday, you will know that we spoke to a Ukrainian Member of Parliament there. Well, I'm delighted to say he joins me again now. It's Ukraine's youngest ever Member of Parliament, Sviatoslav Yurash. He's currently in Kyiv. Good evening to you. How has the last 24 hours been in Kyiv?
It's the Battle of Kyiv happening. The north of the town is basically the area which was full of fighting today. The Russian forces broke through there. We armed everyone we could to fight back, and we demolished most of the people who got into the city. And Russian columns are going from the north of the city and the east of the city. And today's effort was basically about getting as many people ready, as many people armed, as many people going to the fighting as possible. You hear behind me the shells. I'm on the balcony right now in downtown Kyiv, so this will continue through the night. This will continue through the night, and we will continue this battle. And we are watching as the world watches us and asking you for any help you can supply. We are lacking everything. I'm talking right now with a lot of people who are wounded in the hospitals of Kyiv. We need not just that, we need helmets, we need vests, we need weapons. To try and fight the biggest army, one of the biggest armies in the world, we need everything.
And what do we know about casualties there at the moment on the ground in Kyiv?
Very hard to assess. I'm not as blunt as the Russian service saying that they have no casualties. We have Russian prisoners. We have killed plenty. We have documented many tanks being destroyed by those amazing American javelins, and we are shooting down the airplanes every day. We have Ukrainian fighter pilots who shot down 5 planes today. We basically are progressing in this fight throughout the country. Again, it's not just Kyiv, it's all of the border with Russia, 1,000 kilometers, the borderline, 1,000 kilometers coastline, and we are pushing them back as hard as we can. But again, this is an onslaught of which Europe has not seen since 1939. We need you. We need the world to wake up and help us in this fight to have a chance to win.
And you will be aware, of course, that Vladimir Putin has done a direct appeal to your military. In essence, he's trying to overthrow your leaders. What's your response to that?
The response to that was set perfectly by the defenders of the island of Snake Island, as well as Miyini Island, the Black Sea, where Ukrainian border guards and Ukrainian army was stationed, surrounded by the Russian Navy, and when offered to surrender, knowing they will be fully destroyed, they offered the Russian Navy to go after themselves. And for that, they were completely shot, every single one of them, and they got all heroes of Ukraine today. And they are the example of what this country will do. We will fight to the last. This is our country. We have nowhere to go. We will fight to the last.
So you still very much are behind your leader?
We are getting the weapons, getting the people to try and organize everything to battle him throughout the country. We're expecting anything and everything in the capital, all around the country, in the west, in the east, in the center, in the south. We are facing heavy fights everywhere. Very hard to discern information coming forward, what is true, what is not. But the battle in Kyiv will continue. Again, shells behind me falling. And again, this is modern Europe. This is the biggest war in Europe since the Second World War. And the world needs to wake up and support us in this fight in every way it can. Because if it is allowed here, destruction of the single biggest European state, this will spread. And this will be happening many more places.
And how I want to bring it back again to your leadership, your coordination as a country. I mean, you mentioned that you're arming citizens now, anyone that wants to be armed. I think we mentioned 18,000 guns, essentially, that have been issued out. Where is your leadership coming from? Is your parliament operating? Where is your strategy coming from?
Much more than 18,000 guns. The reality is very hard to count either losses or the people who are getting involved. When you look at the situation with our leadership, there was a video just made by the president of Ukraine showing that everybody's in Kyiv. He, the prime minister, the chief of his staff, all the key advisors, and the parliamentarians like myself are both gathering for a fight and trying to make their plans to be of use in different ways. I was supposed to be today in the north of Kyiv, but the battles there not allow any transportation to go, so I stayed in Kyiv and tried to help organize, help get things in order here. And tomorrow I'll be going to the north of Kyiv to big fighting happening at that military airport the Russians need to try and provide reinforcement for the Battle of Kyiv.
I mean, you know, you're appealing for the world to come and help you. And I have to say, I'm getting quite a lot of emails from viewers saying that they feel like Ukraine has just been left. You know, if you could make an appeal to Boris Johnson, what would you ask him to be doing?
First, get the Russian money out of your country. Russians are laundering their money en masse in your country in every single way, in every single dimension. It's well known. And you are making steps, and I very much... We've heard about the steps you are making. This is, again, a great start, but there's plenty more to do. You can talk with your BBC. They can tell you much more about that. Working with them in one capacity or another through the years has shown me that. So the reality is there's plenty you can hurt Russians with in Britain itself. But again, your support in terms of weapons has been invaluable. And again, as much of that you can provide as possible, that is needed in every way. Because Russians are hitting us with everything they got, except for the nukes. And again, everything you can provide is welcome.
And just tell us, I mean, what does this evening hold? Are people leaving Kyiv? Are they staying? Are they sleeping? You know, what are people doing tonight?
I spend a good chunk of the night getting the guns for people who want to get them in one way or the other, to get people ready for a fight. I was talking with some of my MP colleagues who are stationed in various places and, again, preparing for a fight. This is the fight for the whole nation. We are gathering together, and everybody who wants to fight can fight, and we will provide them with weaponry and means to do that.
And what about training these people? I mean, if someone decides that they want to join your fight, one of your citizens, are you training these people? I mean, how is that working?
For the last 8 years, Ukraine has been fighting a war in eastern Ukraine. Too many have went through that training in real life, fighting the Russians there. Too many have seen the results of that. And again, they are prepared in one way or the other to try and resist, try and fight, try and battle. And again, when you're fighting for your life, you learn pretty quick.
Mr. Yurash, thank you for your time again this evening. We'll be following what's going on in Ukraine, of course, very closely. I hope to speak to you again soon. And in the meantime, do stay safe. John Matillo, I mean, it just brings it home to you, doesn't it, what is going on there? We spoke to that Member of Parliament yesterday. He himself is armed, just everyday average people just now bearing arms to protect their country. It's unimaginable here. I mean, you cannot simply imagine a normal, everyday person. That's the Mr. Yurash there with his weaponry, but just a normal, everyday person donning an AK-47 or similar to protect their homes, their families.
Yes, it's a real tragedy, and many are waking up to the fact that, you know, that we really need to rethink again about our security structure. And more importantly, I think we really need to help and support Ukrainians and provide all the military support we can, short of sending in troops or more, but certainly sending in, as was requested, you know, ammunition, anti-tank missiles, support for their air defenses. There is a lot that we still hopefully can do, and I think we really should now start doing that. I think that you know, there's been a lot of effort to sort of reinforce NATO countries, but very little, in my view, to really help the Ukrainian war-fighting capacity. And I think this is a real shame for Europeans, for the Atlantic Alliance. It seems we are primarily focused on protecting ourselves, and I think we should do a lot more for the Ukrainians. I think it's very, very important now. They feel very abandoned at the moment.
I think that it's now no longer just Ukraine. A lot of people in the area are worried about the fact that they're going to have a new Yalta, which is going to divide Europe into two, like in 1945. And people in Poland, the Baltic states, Latvia, Estonia, all these people are really, really scared that they're next. And it seems to me one of the most important things that needs to be done is to reinforce send more troops into those countries so that they have more confidence that somehow they're going to be protected, because we in Britain and in France and America have an obligation towards NATO countries, and we must uphold that obligation. Otherwise, we will end up as we did in the Munich days of the 1930s.
But I don't think there's any question, though, is there, that we wouldn't honour, is it Article 5, the attack one, you tackle? I don't think that would be in question, would it? If this conflict spilled out, I'll bring you in, Lord Moylan, if this conflict spilled out over into a NATO area, I don't think that would be in question, that we would, not just us, but all of NATO would come together militarily to defend that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. That's got to be the case. And it's got to be a very long-term game now. I mean, this is... if Putin succeeds in annexing or occupying or effectively controlling the Ukraine, that situation, the world changes for at least the next 20, 30, 40 years, certainly for the rest of his lifetime, and until you get a Russian leader who actually says that what's important is the standard of living of the people of Russia and not aggression against neighboring countries. So things are going to change very dramatically, and we're going to have in-depth defense of NATO countries on the border with a real commitment to that for a very long time indeed. And we need to cut Russia out of the economic leverage it has over us. And we need to, that is also a long-term program. You can't cut off the gas straight away and the energy supplies, but we need to find alternative sources to that and make that an absolute priority in the whole of Western Europe. And then we need to find out which of the NATO members is really committed to a program of defense and which of them are just going to be free riders.
I think that the problem is that Germany has indicated already that their military counts for nothing.
Yeah.
Minister of Defense said that. I cannot see anybody on the European continent actually fighting, putting troops into the area. The only two countries that might have the capacity and the will to intervene is the United States and Britain.
Well, I've had people actually messaging in saying, well, hang on, how come we've put troops in places like, I don't know, Syria, Afghanistan, etc., but we've not done the same on our European continent? Just final thought to you on that.
Well, this in a way, I mean, paradoxically, it's a bit the result of our sort of new post-Cold War environment and our relationship with Russia, which was sort of sealed in a way in the sort of Russia-NATO Founding Act, where we were, on the one hand, we agreed to the enlargement of NATO and to accept countries which wanted to be members of NATO into our fold, but at the same time, in order to reassure Russians, we tried to sort of reduce our military presence there. So in a way, I mean, I think it was also related to the fact that we thought that any kind of new war with Russia would be unthinkable. And in a way, we fell into the trap of thinking that, you know, if we rearmed our eastern flank in NATO, we would be sort of provoking Russia into some kind of aggression. And really what this war is showing is that, you know, despite our efforts not to sort of provoke Russia, Russia has engaged in a military invasion of Ukraine regardless. Because if we look at the ratio of Russian forces versus NATO forces in Eastern Europe, I mean, it's very unbalanced. So I think really it's very clear that we have made a mistake here. A very strong sort of strategic mistake in that respect.